All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Holmes. I am one of the trustees here at the Stowe Center for Literary Activism. And I am so pleased to welcome you all here tonight for this very important program. First, let me say thank you for coming, for being out in the snow this morning, rain this evening, and hopefully nothing when we leave here tonight. The Stowe Center for Literary Activism is committed to amplifying the voices of people who want to build a better world, especially through words. And on that note, please let me welcome Nachum Levitan, our programs coordinator, who will start.
Hello everyone. My name is Nachum Levitan. I am the programs coordinator here at the Stowe Center for Literary Activism. Before we get into the whole thing, I'm just going to give us a quick rundown of the show today, so we're all on the same page. We all know what's going to happen. So we got some introductions. We're going to get a little bit of a reading before getting into the conversation. This is going to be ending around, the interview will be ending around 7:15, giving around 15 minutes for questions. And then there's also a nice 30 minutes until 8 o'clock when we're going to conclude for the night, where you can just like talk, chat, if you want your book signs or embellished in some way. Yeah. So, thank you all so much for being here for the Book Tours of Literary Activism, our new program that invites authors to spread the power of words at the Stowe Center. This evening, we have the pleasure of hosting an award-winning journalist, writer, radio. I think you heard he's a two-time New York best-selling author, and
You got claps in the chat, too.
Is this on? Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Okay. And I don't know if you know this, but he's also the host of the Clay Game Show. And tonight, we're here to talk about his new novel, Burn Down Master's House. Yeah. So, everyone would like to join and welcome Clay Kane.
First of all, I don't like to travel. Coming up here to Connecticut, it's been an amazing ride. I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so honored to be invited to be here from the Stowe Literary Center. They gave me a tour of Harriet Beecher Stowe's home. That was incredible to see. So, I love my history, y'all. And today, in 1895, my hero, Frederick Douglass, passed away. So I just feel just all the things. And then I did a book tour stop in Dallas on his birthday, February 14th. So it's an honor to be here. I want to thank the entire staff. They've been incredible. I forgot my shoes and my belt. This brother gave me his shoes. That's coalition building. Because if y'all follow me, I forget things. And I forgot entire outfits for Beyond the Mic. So thank you so much. But it really is an honor to be here, to be in this space. I was in Harriet Beecher Stowe's home, and I saw Octavia Butler's Kindred up there. I saw just so incredible books, Uncle Tom's Children by Richard Wright. So I'm just feeling all the things to be in a history location. Y'all know how much that means to me. So thank you for coming out in the cold. If you're on the live stream, what's up? I love you. And I'm here, and I'm grateful. Thank y'all from my heart for inviting me. It means a lot to me.
Of course, thank you. And will you be willing to do just
Yeah, let me do a little brief reading. All right. So I don't think this is a spoiler, but if it is, I don't think it is, but it's a part that I've always wanted to read. Hold on one second. Let me get here. Get here. And if you got your book, we're gonna be like we in church. I mean, now this is the kind of verse you won't hear in church. But I'm not gonna explain it. I just want to read this part, and I think it says a lot. We're gonna be starting at page 103. And then going to page 104. So again, not going to explain what it is, but I've always wanted to read this part out loud. It's right in the heart of the book. and I'm just going to let it resonate as I read it. The sound grew clearer. It wasn't just one pair of feet. It was many, moving as one in a unified march. Old Mama Bess was the first to step into the dining room. She had spent more than 40 years on the Baynard plantation. She had been there when Lafayette's father ran the farm. Decades of humiliation followed her into that room. Behind her came Ezekiel. He had been sold to the Baynards at age 17 and was now 42, his entire adult life spent in their fields. Then came Ruth, a small but sturdy woman with hands cracked from years of washing, scrubbing, and plowing. She had been brought here as a child. 33 years of servitude trailed her steps. Mary followed, her face as soft as her voice, though her eyes held an animus. She was 29, but had been here since she was 12, forced into the house as a maid, and later a nursemaid for Lady Baynard's children. James came next. He was only 23, but he had already spent half his life under the Baynards' rule, his youth stolen by their greed. Finally, there was Larkin, the youngest among them, at just 13 years old, born on the plantation. He had never known freedom. His parents were sold off on a New Year's Day long ago to settle the Baynards' end-of-year debts, leaving his entire life confined to its fields and shacks. Together, their time on the Baynard plantation added up to nearly 150 years, over a century of lives, of pain passed down from one generation to the next. They weren't bound by blood, but by something stronger, the kinship of fortitude, the generational strength in their DNA. The Baynards believed they had crushed individuality and scattered families, but they were ignorant of the community that had formed beneath their noses. They weren't just laborers, they were a people. And now they stood together in the heart of the big house, the space where they had never been allowed to linger, let alone belong. This was the master's domain, but tonight it was theirs. The Baynards had taken so much, but they could never take this. Their unity, their unbreakable sense of one another. Here in the belly of Lucifer, their presence was godlike.
I guess I'll try to project this. So what was it about that passage? One, that what brought you to be like the new one that you want to say, but also why that?
It's the language of DNA. It's the language of the connectivity, what they were bound by. And up until that part, I didn't say the names of the souls who were on that plantation. And I wanted to list them. I wanted to name their years. I wanted to add up a total. You know, we hear these dates and these numbers, and what does this mean? 150 years in one space, 150 years of stolen time. Mm-hmm. I wanted to add that up. And I think about in the space that we're in right now, feeling like all things are falling apart. Mm-hmm. And maybe just beneath the noses of the demons at the top, we are building our own coalition. And if we aren't, we should, right? Mm-hmm. So that was just really important to me. I love that, and I rewrote it 1,000 times. I wanted it to be perfect, mm-hmm. But bound together. You know, when you think of bound in stories around American chattel slavery, you know, this is a terrible word, but they found their own connection. They were bound together through these experiences. And one of those characters, they go on to the next chapter. So it's always stayed with me, and nobody's pointed it out yet. And I love it. And I remember feeling it and seeing it and dreaming about that scene of them all walking in, claiming their space, it's ancestral.
Mhm.
It is bigger than them. It is all of them. And I don't call them a slave one time in that section, right? These are real people. For the most part, I use the word souls. I rarely ever say slave unless there's the dialogue. So yeah, I don't know, something in my spirit as we're on the day that Douglas passed, and I saw all this imagery in that beautiful museum, and Harriet Beecher Stowe, and her own complications. I wanted to read that.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I don't know. I will admit I do a little bit of a cold, so thank you for reading. No, because I like this idea that you're coming back to the idea of like dreaming of that space, dreaming of that predicament, dreaming of that situation, and dreaming of the larger system and thinking about the larger system of American chattel slavery. And so to making this choice to right now make a novel about this, you had a long nonfiction career. So why now a novel? Why now a novel about all of this? Why write this book?
Yeah. Well, I began as a fiction writer. I think most writers do. You begin writing short stories when you're a kid, you begin writing poetry. So I began writing it when I was in college. And but I couldn't get it published. Nobody wanted to read it, nobody cared. So then when I did my last book, The Grift, that book did really well. So that gives you some kind of autonomy, right? You're able to do what you want to do. And people wanted me to do like a follow-up to The Grift, which I'll do eventually. But I said, no, I think this is a way to do it. So when I was in college, historical fiction really inspired me. Arna Bontem's
No.
Walker Jubilee, Richard Wright, Uncle Tom's Children. So goes back to my roots of falling in love with Black history. So I wanted to do it for that reason, but I felt like historical fiction is a way to teach. When you hear Kanye West saying slavery is a choice, when you have the governor of Florida signing a curriculum saying there were no benefits to slavery, when you have the Confederacy being uplifted every day by this administration, putting up a portrait at West Point of Robert E. Lee with the enslaved person behind him. So I wanted to burn down those lies, burn down that misinformation, burn down that propaganda, and do it in the way that so many of the authors that I loved and worshiped did it. I mean, I love those books changed the culture. Those books changed the way that people saw this thing that we call America. So it just felt like perfect timing. And then lastly, I'll say, I revealed this on the radio. I was very sick when I was writing this book. I had esophagitis. It was terrible. My best friend was also dying of lupus. So I was in a very it was like my life album. If you know American Lives, it was my life years. It was my Hear My Dear Years, Marvin Gaye reference. I was in a very thinking of my own mortality, not knowing what was wrong with me, feeling caged in my own body, seeing my friend dying in front of me. So there's a lot in this book that it was space that I was in, and it was my escape. It was my fire. It kept me going. So all of it just kind of made sense. So when you're reading it, there's a struggle and a fight that's in me. I'm trying to burn down my own fears, trying to burn down grief. My girl Alexa, she was editing this book in a hospital bed. She edited all my books. I'm actually wearing her class ring now. I always wear it with me. But so yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot there. Just it was the timing of it all, and history, and just me and where I was as a writer.
Well, thank you for that. And I was fascinated by the choice, by your choices of history of how you put it, and specifically how you start the book. And because that really took me as like as a gay man and working at a museum that talks about American chattel slavery 24/7. And I don't think I've ever come across, or rarely ever come across, a novel or a piece of literature that talks about gay men in chattel slavery. And acknowledging, like, of course, right. Like gay men, LGBTQ people have always existed.
Right.
So this is like a larger question. We only got so much time. But just like the idea of one, can you tell us a little bit about Henry and Louis, two enslaved young adults, and the idea like you take their love story and talking a little bit about it, no spoilers as much as we can. but you start off the novel that way. You're like, no, I need to position them in the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
So why that? And then also, like, have you dealt with like comments about folks being like,
Oh, yeah.
hey,
Of course.
why make them gay?
Right. So, well, that's how the novel began. I read this book called Taboo, Homosexuality in Black Communities, and it covered sexuality during slavery. And it mentioned these two people, Luke and Henry. And you'll read it in the book, but what they went through. And I was just fascinated by that. And so I wanted to reimagine their lives. I wanted to reimagine who they were and who they could be. And so the story just kind of hit me. And that was the first story that I wrote. And but I think also too, I wanted to tell the story of American chattel slavery in a way that I hadn't read it before. I said, well, how can I do this differently? What would I want to read? You know? And I thought, I just, Toni Morrison's birthday just passed. Being specific can be universal. And so I just felt like if I centered this in love, to start it with love, that's radical, right? That's radical to start it this way. And it just felt very natural. I always say being gay is as natural as the sun rising or the sun setting. But, I don't think it's a spoiler, but in the beginning, you don't know. They don't know, right? And isn't that how love is? Love isn't calculated. Love just kind of shows up when it's ready. Love can spark a fire. Love can spark something within you. So I wanted to show, a lot of folks think gay folks just began with the first Diana Ross song, you know what I mean? But I mean, they really do. It couldn't exist. It's so amazing, that's what I think. So, but I really it just felt very natural. And it had to have happened, right? So it just felt very natural, and it's not. And it really isn't about the sex. I don't use the word gay or queer in their stories at all. That word, I don't think homosexuals in the word till 1877, if I have that right. So this is just naturally who they are. And this is where they find love. And I've gotten people upset about it and frustrated by it because they didn't see it coming and all that kind of stuff. But we're all going to read it through, you read it through your own lens, so if you're offended by it, if you're offended by that, but not offended by other things, I mean, a hit dog will holler. So go on and holler with that. But here's the other thing that's really important, is that it is not a gay story. It is not a queer story. This book is a story of rebellion. This book is a story of fighting back. This book is a story of what one flame can spark a million fires, right? And I love that it starts with them because their love is pure. There's other love stories in the book. So it just made sense. And I felt them with me, and that's where it all began. So why not take the story of enslaved people that we always see and burn that down and create something different, something new? And I just felt like I just felt like it was powerful. And so I often go back and read that chapter. I rewrote it over and over and over and over and over. And by the end of the day, it is about the love. It's about the love. So I feel like, again, it's a way to teach. If you're reading this, no matter what your background is, no matter what you believe in, you've got to be able to feel the love between those two characters, those two people. And I reimagine their stories beyond how they disappeared from the historical record.
Wow, thank you for that. And I will admit, no, like I love that the idea, like it's a gay story that starts in the beginning,
Right.
And that inspires folks throughout the narrative.
Yeah.
So it's like at once, like not everyone is gay in the book.
Right.
And also at the same time, it's also like it's like also entangled and relies on that to some extent.
Yeah.
I love, and I love the idea of like, because when you talk about the idea of like burning down Master's house, one, great title. But also the idea of like you are kind of addressing the idea of it's Could you explain kind of this metaphor that you chose,
Yeah.
or these choices of words?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. When I was growing, I don't know if y'all used this term before, but when I was growing up, we'd say we're gonna burn down Master's house. You leave this job, you're gonna burn it down. Like you're tired of somebody, you're gonna burn it down. So always been kind of a phrase. So as I was saying earlier, for me, burn down Master's house. Gil Scott Heron was talking about this as far as the revolution will not be televised. I'm talking about burning it down up here. You can't move anywhere if you're up here. You still have these dogmas. So I'm asking the reader. The call to action is: what's the house in your life you got to burn down? What are the chains in your life you have to break free from? Who or what do you have to escape from? Right? So it's a call to action to look in within yourself, as in all these characters did. They used whatever resources they had to burn it down. They did it differently across the board, right? But it all began with that first flame. It all began with that first spark, right? So what do you have to ignite in yourself? I really hope this book imprints itself on people to question your own structures, to question your own traditions, to question, are these things really serving us, right? How far can we go? We have to, I was saying this with Reese Colbert. What's up, Reese Colbert? Have to burn down this lie that a Black woman cannot win senator in Texas. We had to burn down a lie that a man named Barack Hussein Obama, a Black man, could not become president of the United States. Can you imagine if we convinced ourselves that would never happen? He would never become president, right? We have to start by convincing ourselves, believing. We have to believe that this space that we're in right now, we're going to make it out on the other side of this, or we're not going to make it out. So it is that belief. And regardless of that there will be casualties and losses, there will be, that things are going to change. Just like in this book, things change, right? It's not a pretty ending to everything. But fire to me is purification. Fire to me is a cleanser. Fire to me is transformation. So that's why I call it that. I'm calling for a lot. I'm calling a lot, throwing a lot out there. And just my hope. I mean, I had to burn down grief. I had to burn down this narrative that I thought if I didn't have quote unquote legacy media, the book couldn't be successful. But the whole time I had y'all. I've been building community for years, right? That's what we got to lean on. Like I read those names in that chapter. They're building with each other. They've been building on this bio land for years and managed to burn it down. What does it look like if we can build together, right? So the book is graphic and it's all these things, but it is a call to action to how we can find our own coalitions. Maybe that's you going to a nonprofit. Maybe that's you going to a city council meeting. Maybe it's you donating to a museum, donating to a nonprofit, whatever the case may be. That I am certain that we can make it out on the other side, but we got to burn down the lie that we can't. If they teach you, you will always fail. If they teach you that it is futile to fight back, you won't even try. You won't even try.
Yeah. And it seems that at once you are having this call to action, but you also kind of give a way of thinking, where you have like that very famous slogan from this book, which is, can we say it one more time?
Oh, don't let them take what they can't touch. Yeah. That right? I mean, don't we all have those things that your grandparents passed down to you, right? And I sometimes think, where did that line come from? My grandfather used to always say, there's got to be a little bit of rain for the sunshine to come. I just wondered, where did that come from? So that line is repeated, and it's just, man, I remember when it came to me, I said, wow, what a beautiful, simple line. Don't let them take what they can't touch. This book covers literacy. It covers reproductive rights. It covers ageism. It covers how we forget our elders, how we have to lean into our elders. I've been saying this throughout this book tour because a caller said it. Knowledge manages terror. Knowledge manages terror. So when you are nervous and scared in this moment, your knowledge has to manage the terror. Now, wait a minute, hold up. Well, if Josephine can do this, if Charity can do this, if Emma Jane can do this, if Luke can do it, if Solomon can do it, if Henry can do it, my knowledge has to manage my terror. And the knowledge for me is, don't let them take what they can't touch. They can't take this book away from me. They can't take this moment right here away from us. Whatever your talent is, whether you are you were an artist or a singer, or whether you kill it in corporate America, maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. What is it that they can't touch from you? What is your superpower? I'm on these airwaves. Some of y'all have called in saying, hey, is there any risk to y'all, not being on these airwaves? No, but we've already built community. Karen Hunter planted those seeds. You can't take them seeds from Karen Hunter. You know what I mean? So we're all out there doing the work. And so I hold on to that. When I was very sick, when I was very ill, I had to hold on to that and hold on to like, my God, like this is, I mean, I was so ill that I was thinking, am I going to be here when this book comes out? I lost 15 pounds. I was incredible. I mean, my best friend Anton remembers I was incredibly ill. So what can illness not touch? At this point, my ability to write, my ability to tell a story. Y'all know I can tell a good story. No, I can't. So that is the heart of it. And this, I just believe when you were going through something, find that thing that nobody can touch. Find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, 'cause in the novel, the time where I was realizing like, oh, this is going to be
Yeah.
a repeated slogan. It said it's during with Harriet and Sophia,
Mm-hmm.
but they get it from from their parents.
Larkin and Charity. Yeah.
Yeah, and Larkin and Charity's chapter, especially with Thaddeus Stevens, which
Yeah.
I will admit that was a learning lesson for me. I did not know who this person was. Now a lot more to learn.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could talk about this chapter, because I feel like this chapter is really resonant, and I felt like you're kind of making like a link to what is going on in the world today. And I was wondering if you could talk about that. And
Yeah. So the Charity chapter, I had the most historical record with that. And Charity Butler is a Black woman who got her freedom. You'll see how. And this doesn't give anything away, well, it kind of does, but the spoiler, hold on. She's basically re-enslaved due to Thaddeus Stevens, who is known to be an incredible abolitionist. He said and did incredible things later in life. This case made him a star.
Yeah.
It was his first case to go to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And I have interviewed historians who have written about Thaddeus Stevens. They give Charity Butler one paragraph. I mean, he essentially destroyed this entire Black family. I found their court records. So some of that chapter, Thaddeus Stevens' actual words, it's in there. But they disappeared from the historical record. Her husband's name was Henry. But Henry was already named in the book. So I named him Larkin after one of my ancestors in Goochland, Virginia. So all the secondary characters are named after my ancestors. Solomon, Larkin, that's all folks in my ancestry tree. So I wanted to resurrect Charity. Wanted to resurrect her. My hope is that people, as this book gets more and more popular, they get a little bit of context of who Thaddeus Stevens was, that he destroyed an entire family using the law, as they call it, a wicked law. But there's also a love story in there. And there's also an angle of what happens when you don't listen to a Black woman. Because somebody tries to tell somebody, please, would you pay attention to what I'm saying? So it's a lot in there. And there's also, Thaddeus Stevens, obviously based on a real person. There's also a character named Miss Clara. So I show the nuances of white characters, so-called white liberals, so-called allies, so-called people who are on your side. What does that really look like? Is it a matter of being inconvenient, or is it a matter of you really caring? So what's funny, I didn't include this in the book, when Thaddeus Stevens dies in DC, he's partnered with a Black woman. I think her name, Lydia Hamilton Smith, I believe. But at this point, he is beloved. Like Black folks across the country adore him. I mean, he didn't even want the South to rejoin the Union. He said they should just be military territories. And he felt like if you were a Confederate general, you should never be able to vote or own property again. And I'm with that. They should listen to him. I mean, he was on it. I don't know. Lydia sat him down and talked to him, but he was on it. But when he dies, I just thought this was so, I couldn't find a way to include. I didn't want to censor him. So I don't keep him in the entire chapter. But when he dies on his deathbed, uh, there's a preacher that visits him and says, you have the prayers of all the colored people. That was the term back then, obviously, for our younger viewers, colored people across the country. But also three, I don't know if they were nuns, but he's visited by the Sisters of Charity. Mm. And I just thought that was so fascinating. So I was gonna do a thing where like she's part of the Sisters of Charity, and then she shows up on his deathbed and gives him the evil eye. But it just didn't work out. I said, that's more. But there's a new. I found the newspaper article. He is literally in his bed. There's like a drawing of it, of course, and they didn't have photos at that point, with the Sisters of Charity just sitting there standing. And I said, look at them, charity. And I just wondered, probably not, but in his soul, in his last moments, if he said, the Sisters of Charity are here, and I did this to Charity Butler. So, but Charity Butler was a real person. And so Thaddeus did good stuff, but let's be clear how he got there off the back of destroying an entire Black family. And they were free for over a decade. So, yeah, and I loved how people reacted to that chapter. There was so much to work with in it. And Harriet and Sophia, that was the name of their children, their actual names. I couldn't find any record of them. So I said, this is where historical fiction is a teaching tool.
Yes. No, thank you for that, because Thaddeus Stevens really reminded me of Harriet Beecher Stowe. And the way she's incredibly beloved by a lot of people, but yet, especially what we try to do here at the museum is say, well,
yes,
we give her credit that like she saw horrific things happen.
Right.
And she decided to have a moment of action of what did write something.
Right.
And she's also a really complicated figure.
Yes.
What the novel contains and what it talks about is really complicated.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Yeah.
And it is difficult and it is important.
Yeah.
To talk about it.
Yeah. Can I add something really quick? Look, Miss Harriet Beecher Stowe, you out there. What's interesting about Uncle Tom's Cabin is that it really centers, whiteness in a way where white Christianity and this kind of white conscience and, seeing the way that these Black people are treated and all that kind of stuff. So Black suffering is just a symbol in Uncle Tom's Cabin. Mind you, it's an iconic book and it did change the country. It did, without a doubt. But that's the great thing about evolution. That's the great thing about being in this museum and seeing the books of Richard Wright there and Octavia Butler there. This is really important. And so in my book and in others, but in this book specifically, Black suffering is not a symbol. This is Black resistance. This is Black fighting. That's the center of this book. And that's not what Uncle Tom's Cabin was, right?
Yeah.
It was a symbol, Black suffering of a symbol for white people to feel bad finally. Like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I didn't know this. Same thing with the civil rights movement when all these white folks saw on the news Black folks being hosed down. Mind you, we didn't see them. My grandfather didn't see on the news. We knew what it was. But that kind of media imagery. So that to me, when I think about the book, the impact it had is really important. But I love that evolution is so important. I love that I'm here in this space with my book called Burn Down Master's House in her house. And Frederick Douglass is up there, and just all these people up there. I see Miss Octavia Butler, and I'm just like, I love it. Like that's the beauty of life and the years of fortitude and being bound by DNA. And I'm here on this day where Frederick Douglass passed away and all this kind of stuff. Like there was just something in the ether with this book. So I appreciate Uncle Tom's Cabin and I appreciate Harriet Beecher Stowe. And I actually was skimming over the book because I read it back in high school. But that's why Blackness is centered in this way. It is not a symbol. It is the feature.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for making that very important contrast. Yeah. And so for me, especially also to go back to Charity's chapter, I wanted to get your thoughts on one quote. I'm not trying to spoil the book, but I just wanted to get one quote from it, which is, and I quote, "Charity struck like a hammer. This chord."
Charity's words struck like a hammer.
Yeah, charity's words. Yes. So this is very important, Steve.
Yeah.
And yeah, Charity's words struck like a hammer. This court, and she says, this court must answer a question, not just of law, but of humanity.
Yes.
Do you value a life built on love, work, and freedom? Or do you return me and my children to chains as if these years never existed? Can you speak about that?
Yeah. So what we do know is Black folks could not testify in court, right? So I said, okay, I know that's historically correct, but I have to have Charity's voice in this court in some way. So what I did was I had their abolitionist lawyer, who I named Parker. I just always like that name, Parker. He allows her to submit a statement. So in my mind, I wanted to have her voice in the court records, some way, somehow, right? And the statement is dismissed because that's what would have happened. But I thought it was really important for her as a Black woman to speak for herself in a Pennsylvania court. What do you see me as? Will you throw me back in chains, right? At this point, she is literate. At this point, knowledge has been passed down to her. So her knowledge is managing her terror. You cannot take her voice away from her. She could still fight for her voice no matter what the outcome. So, and I could have had Larkin, which is her husband, put it in there. It could have been a statement from the lawyer. No, I wanted her voice in there, even though it was dismissed, but I wanted at least the reader to read what I could only imagine what she would say. At this point, she's been free for over a decade. She's a mother now. She has all these things and they want to take this from her, right? So that was very important to give her voice, all these things about legalities. With Charity, her citizenship is being questioned because she crossed state lines. Where is she legal? Where is she illegal? Where does legal begin? Where does illegal begin? Is it her birthright to be a citizen? Right? She's been in this country in her entire life, but she isn't a citizen. She's been living in this country, serving this country. And is she a citizen? There's much of the dialogue we're having today, not the same, but the history just rhymes. It should rhyme enough to give you a chill. She's not getting due process. She deserves due process. So that is my way of inserting her in the court records, and I include Thaddeus' trifling words, which is just readers. Oh my God. Damn, you said this, bro. Like, you said this. And if I can find it, how can nobody, anyway. That's why I included her.
No, and I kind of like the people and historians making choices to not do that.
Right. If I can find it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And also, I felt like when it's also seeing you in previous interviews talk about Charity's chapter and the kind of really important part of literature and the really, really important part specifically of historical fiction, which kind of reminds me of science fiction, the idea of going to another world, another time period, seeing what happened, reflecting upon it, and asking ourselves, what can we do differently?
Absolutely.
How can we change it? And so I was also interested in this idea of like connecting to other time periods. And also sometimes the idea that struck out to me was the idea of, these things are happening at the same time. Which is the idea, this is a little bit on the side, but the idea of you pick two pieces of literature to put in this novel, which is The Tempest by Shakespeare. And also Jane Austen's novel, Sense and Sensibility. And so what stood out for me personally was the idea of like, Jane Austen, this huge heavyweight writer.
She was a big deal back in the day, She was the Danielle Steele of her time.
And like speaking to the concentrations of wealth, speaking to and then you ask yourself like, wait, where's this concentration of wealth coming from?
Right.
And so the idea you were like, no, this novel exists at this exact time of when Clara is reading it.
Miss Clara.
So could you talk about why you chose these two pieces of literature to talk about in this novel?
So yeah, the first reference, the Shakespeare reference that happens with Luke and Henry. I don't want to give too much away, but part of the reason why Luke knows how to read is because he would practice plays with the demon the trash box who owned him. So again, you're so arrogant. You're passing on knowledge, not even knowing it, because they literally thought that it wouldn't sustain in their mind. It would just be like pouring out water, like it would go one ear and out the other. Like so freaking demonic and stupid. Just demons, right? So there's a character named Miss Clara. So again, I don't think I'm giving too much away, but the reason why Charity gets free is because oftentimes they would rent out enslaved people, rent them out. And so she rented Charity, and Charity was owned by a man named Norman Bruce. But she was her actual name, it was too complicated. I think it was some weird name, it was too complicated from the book. So she got dumped by her husband, and she was upset about this. And so she goes across state lines in a somewhat of a free state. And at one point, Charity don't come back. She's like, girl, I ain't coming back. So I had to kind of build this relationship between Clara and Charity. And it was interesting writing a Northerner. I really enjoyed writing it. And she is a narcissist, and she is many things. She talks all the time about how her man left her. She's like one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And she's babbling, but Charity wants to learn how to read, and she sees her reading Sense and Sensibility. So one, I wanted to choose a title that if you saw it and you didn't know that era of literature, that would click easily. Sense and Sensibility. Okay, that's kind of cool. So, but it is Charity's own sense and sensibility. It is a key to her freedom, right? So I kind of wanted to show what this a Northerner, allegedly would not be steeped in slavery, but the idea of becoming a slaveholder's wife was tempting. And it's a really interesting twist on and again, Jane Austen for a reason, the complicity of white women in the structure of slavery. Whether you're a Northerner or a Southerner, it's really an important character. And some people, digged her, didn't dig her. She's complicated for a variety of reasons, but even the secretary, Thaddeus Stevens' secretary, Wilhelmina, chose that name for her too. Mistress Kitty, Lady Baynard, whose real name is Lala Ann, but she was just, mountain trash and able to marry up. There's a really important role of gender. There's a really important role of gender between Black women and white women in this book. And Miss Clara kind of brings that to a head, right? So I chose Jane Austen for a reason. I chose that title for a reason. And in the end, you'll see, but it's really, really important. And I don't feel like any character goes through a basic, trope of what we normally see. Even I have a Black enslaver in the book, right? I want to make Byron Donalds happy. So that even in the structure of slavery, there's very few Black enslavers, very, very few. And the ones normally they own their family out of protection. But there were a handful that were grifting. Y'all have the grift. There were a handful that realized there was a check if I could uphold white supremacy. One of my favorite scenes in the book is when this Black enslaver is talking to a minister. If you read it, I love this scene so much. I spent so much time on it. And he begins to tell him, oh, even if this civil war, even if we lose it, we're going to be okay. We already got things in place. And he's like, what about me? What you got in place? And that minister lets him know you better know your place. No matter how many coins we let you get, no matter how much you think, you better know your place. So what's funny, and I didn't include this in the book, but a little bit of history, the handful of Black enslavers, once slavery ends, they were impacted by Jim Crow. So you thought you were protected. You thought you were one of the special ones. But then Jim Crow got you. Black codes got you. You know what I mean? So there's just some stacking in the book that I was really intentionally doing. So Sense and Sensibility, and it comes up again at the end of that chapter, and it was very intentional.
Yeah, thank you for all that, and also just like thank you. One thing I thought was really cool was the idea of like you show three various different kinds of agents of white supremacy.
Yes,
And I just thought that was like I was like, oh, you make it make it nuanced, complicated, but also the idea of like you also made it be like, no, you made a choice. You're making an active decision right now.
Various agents of white supremacy. Oh, I like that. Agents.
So that was like, oh, like that felt really, that was like a really compelling part of the book. And so just thank you for all of your thoughts and thank you for this, but I gotta stop talking. And now we got some audience questions.
Let's do a Q&A, y'all. Don't be nervous, don't be shy. We're here.
So if everyone just wants whoever wants to ask questions, if we just want to do a lineup in the middle of the row and
Well, can they just stand up and talk? I'll give them my Phil Donahue on. Who wants to start first? You got a question? You, brother? Was it? Oh, anybody got a question? Anybody got a question? Don't be afraid now. Now is your time. Now is your time. Don't be.
Comment.
Oh, sure.
So there are so many novels and renditions of this time period that center on water.
Yeah.
And that being a very West African thing.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, when I was first reading the book, I was like, okay, I'm waiting for water. We're talking about fire. Fire's coming,
Right.
burning. I really appreciated all of the fire imagery.
Yeah.
To almost, I don't want to use the word combat. I can't come up with another word. To combat the traditional water feature in so many novels and so many renditions and storytelling about slavery.
Yes.
That first, without I spoil a book.
Right.
Right. That first scene with the intensity of fire was so deep that then I harkened back to Henry and Luke being in the water.
In the riverbank. I was gonna say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here's the water.
Very so important. Oh my God, but
It was great.
Nobody's brought that up. That's a very gentle, important scene, and that's when the water shows up, right? So I really appreciate that. It's really, and even when Henry is in the back of the wagon and he looks at the sun, and in his mind he says, "Let it burn." You know, he's unafraid. He's unafraid. He just says, "Let it burn" in his mind. So yeah, I was very intentional with the fire for a reason. And I love books that use the water imagery, but I did focus more on fire and earth. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other question? What's your name, brother? Where you from?
Aaron and Nicole.
Aaron.
Why slice the throat?
Right.
Wait, and what? There's a few slices. There's a few slices. So
When take it.
Oh, that one.
Why?
Well, let's not give too much away. That's a big scene. So there's an interesting death scene in the book, but she says, "Free my soul," right? And that's the water comes in there too, because I guess I'm giving away. I'm sorry, y'all.
I'm sorry.
Pause.
That's how I
But when that happens, how do I describe it? Like a river
you did.
coming out of her, right? She says, "Free my," and then I describe her almost getting younger, right? So Miss Emily is an important character, and she's dying of an illness that we wouldn't know of back then. But you know, when I describe Miss Emily's final moments, that's the way that my girl Alexa looked in her hospital bed in her final moments. And Alexa, like I said, edited the book, and she didn't. And that part, I changed it after she died on May 25th at 11:40 a.m. So you know, Alexa was freed, you know, from this body. You know, I use the language Judas a lot, and Alexa would quote Frida Kahlo, and she would say this Judas of a body. So there's a reason with Miss Emily. It wasn't going to be a gunshot. It wasn't going to be anything like that. It was a way to free her. And there was imagery of, I sometimes use blood and water. So there's another scene where I talk about the blood cascading like an arc, like, so there's a lot of that in there. So I just felt like it made sense to see her open like a river,
Thank you.
Oh, we have a question?
Question from the chat.
Okay, question from the chat. Go ahead.
Will your third book be historical fiction?
I don't know. It's so funny. I feel like I shouldn't say this out loud, but it's like I was in such a strange space. I mean, my boy Ansar knows I was such I don't know what no, I know what my next book is going to be because it'll be a political book in a couple years, but I don't know, but I do know something's gonna hit me. It has to hit me. I gotta feel it. What did Nina Simone say? Don't put nothing in it unless you feel it. So I'm gonna keep on doing historical fiction. I couldn't do sci-fi. I couldn't do anything like that. But the great thing about this, it was so special because these were people that nobody knew about. Now I will say when I was doing the grift, I mean I was finding a new revolt story every other. There was one story of an enslaved person who put an axe to his quote unquote owner's head in Ohio. I mean, there was a lot going on. So there's more there. But as far as my next historical fiction, I don't know what it will look like. But this came to me many years ago. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't know just yet. But it's gonna hit. It's gonna hit me. Right here. Yeah. What's your name?
Bernice.
Bernice.
When you were creating the women characters in the book, is there a particular, I'm just curious what your reasoning was behind the characters like Josephine.
Yes.
The characters like I just lost her name, Bess.
Oh, Mama Bess.
Mama Bess.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you were?
Well, Josephine, that's a combination of two characters, two Josephines who got their lick back. One in Maryland, one in Mississippi. So I had a good amount of details on them. And in that chapter, I quote Josephine from an article from the Baltimore Sun from 1857. So her actual word, one sentence of her is in that chapter. I believe the line is, I'm going to make a change here today. Oh no, she did. And so, but in the news article, it said that she was convinced to do what she did. Somebody else convinced her to do it. So I was just thinking, like, well, who would that somebody else be? I don't think it would have to be another woman, and let it be an elder, because what she does, there's a lot of documentation of enslaved women doing what Josephine did. So I just felt like it made sense. This intergenerational passing on. And Josephine has already seen a fire in her own way. So she's seen what it looks like to fight back. She knows what it looks like. And on that day, she said a few days after July 4th, July 7th was the actual date it happened in real life. She's going to let it burn, right? And they think she's little quiet Josephine. She's not, she's not going to fight back. She's not going to do anything. But they're plotting and planning under your nose. So I just felt like, and I also, Reese pointed this out, how she likes how that character specifically, and there isn't anything wrong with this, but we rarely hear about women during rebellions. We love Denmark Vesey, we love Nat Turner, we love them, they're amazing. What were the women doing?
Yeah.
We don't really know. I mean, we know in a way of a Harriet Tubman or Sojourner Truth, but I mean women who were enslaved, not just running away. And what did they do? So in my mind, I had to give them autonomy beyond just fighting for a man, beyond just fighting for their kids. Josephine is fighting just for her because that flame was passed down to her. And she has a gift. You're not coming up there with the gift, but you know what she did? She had a gift. So I'm going to use that gift tonight. And that gift was passed on to her by Ruby. So she said, okay, this is what I can do. Now, I can't do what Luke and Henry did. Here's what I can do. So I just felt like it was important to center old Mama Bess. And I remember when Alexa read that chapter, she called me. She goes, I just read it twice. I love it. It's my favorite chapter. I love it. So it felt natural. It just felt natural. But I did want to make it intergenerational.
And I don't want to, that part is, was very important. But the other part that I like, they had a side to them that was the caring side.
Oh yeah.
And that's what, I don't know, I thought you were trying to give the characters something positive or warm because it was so much
Oh yeah.
misery.
Yeah, oh, it's all positive and warm. I mean, not all, but I mean, there's so much warmth in it. What does Old Mama Beth say? I call it an act of God. So, oh yeah, there's one of the things I tried to do is have real conversations. There's even a couple of funny moments there, Ruby calls Luke, he's soft as cotton. And I wanted to show tenderness, conversations, even I would have to assume that even in these circumstances, you're still going to find your joy. And the more you find that joy, you want to get more of it, get more of it, get more of it. So the scene between Mama Bess and Josephine's are really important. I have a good amount of one-on-one scenes. It's a really important one-on-one scene where she has a flame, and then there's a bit of a the I don't want to give too much away, but the shells come out, and
Yeah.
Mama Bess is still very rooted in her African roots, but Josephine has more of a Christian background, and what does this mean, and all this kind of stuff. So,
Well, Ruby also was like a positive.
oh, Ruby, yeah, absolutely, Ruby, that's my girl. Yeah. Let's go back here. We'll go here.
Joel.
Yeah. Joel, where are you from, Mr. Joel?
Windsor, Connecticut.
Oh, Windsor, love it. Love it.
Okay, could you talk about how important memory was in your book?
Yes, remembering is an act of resistance. I keep saying that. If you remember, they don't want us to remember. Laurie said, if we would have learned this version of slavery when we were all in school, it could be a much different country. I want to teach people this, and it's not just Black folks. They don't want to teach white kids this either.
Yeah.
They don't want to create any more John Browns. They don't want to create any Tina Maries. They don't want to even do that. They don't want white kids to know this kind of stuff. They don't want white kids to see themselves in Josephine, to see themselves in Luke or Henry or Emma Jane. I loved Emma Jane. I wish I wanted to do like a whole chapter for her, but she wasn't an historical record. Yeah, I mean, this is remembering. It's an act of resistance. And once you know, you're going to see it differently. Once you know that, that's why I was, again, Kanye West saying, slavery is a choice. What the hell? Freaking Ben Carson said poverty is a choice. See, I remember poverty. It wasn't a choice. There's no glamorous life on welfare, right? There's no glamorous life in poverty. So I just wanted to remember these stories, remember their names, have it stick with you. Like I said, imprint itself on you. So the more these characters remember, the more they're emboldened and empowered. Mm-hmm. And this is why they want to remember the Confederacy so much.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to embolden and empower a whole ugly, vile side, right? The Confederacy only lasted, I think, from 1861 to 1865. Mm-hmm. 4 years. Why are we holding on to the Confederacy? Why would any white American hold on to the Confederacy? It was 4 years of failure. You fell apart. You had a horrible, weak-ass Robert E. Lee. You fell apart, and that's your heritage. You don't know your history.
No.
That would be like celebrating, Nazi Heritage Month in frickin' Germany. You don't see Adolf Hitler High School in Germany.
No.
You don't see them celebrating Adolf Hitler's birthday in Germany. Why are we celebrating Robert E. Lee's birthday? So I mean, yeah. Remembering is an act of resistance. If we do not remember, we won't even know how to resist. Yeah. Over here.
Hi, I'm Miss Brown. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Like I said before, I'm a fan of your show.
Oh, thank you.
I kind of want to get your opinion here, not necessarily on the book, but as a future educator in the Black and Brown communities, such as Hartford, which is about 85 to 90% Black and Brown students. But unfortunately, 90% of the teachers of U.S. Social Studies are white.
Yeah.
So we are missing the narrative here. What ideas or thoughts about civic responsibility?
I just want to let folks know that this is going to be the final question.
Okay, sorry. But I'll stay for a little bit longer, chit chat. Wait, we got, those gotta get old.
Sorry,
Listen, one, it's intentional. One, we have to do our best to be on school boards. I broke this down earlier in the week of the work that Ronald Reagan did via states to take civics out of the classroom. So listen, all I can say is I think we as adults, we have to do the work, right? You're doing the work right now. I don't have the answer to combating that old school system where, I mean, literally our original textbooks were written by the Daughters of the Confederacy. I mean, this is where we are. So what I would say, I mean, school board policy, my social studies teacher, Miss Rosenthal. Did you ever have her?
Yes, I heard.
Hey,
Yeah, Miss
oh,
Rosenthal.
I would argue
with her, yeah.
I would argue. She wrote in my yearbook. I found my yearbook recently. She called me an angry young man.
Oh,
Whoa! My God!
Angry,
It was the 90s.
intelligent young man.
yeah.
But to call me angry, but I was a little. I mean, I was a little.
He was angry.
I mean, listen,
Like
I would
inquisitive.
argue with her like in the classroom, right? So I'm saying this to say part of the reason why I was that way is because although I didn't have a great history education, when Malcolm X came out in '92, my mother said, "You can only go see that movie if you read the book first."
Right.
So now that's an explicit book for I was 13, 14, but she said, I don't care. You watch horror movies, you watch Freddy Krueger, watch Jason, you're gonna read this book first. So that changed my life.
Whoa.
Sir.
That's a mature that she said, you watch all these silly ass, TV shows, you could sit through it. So that activated me. So to answer your question, you're already doing it. Like you're passing it on. So we can only hope more people more folks like you are out there doing it. But it's a challenge, it's work. I always say white supremacy, it begins in the home, solidified in the schools, and etched in stone in media. When you watch media and they're showing the other side, oh, we got to hear the other side.
Oh.
You don't hear. You never heard Frederick Douglass in any of his writings say we have to hear the other side of the Confederacy. You never hear Dr. King say we have to hear the other side. Let's bring on Barry Goldwater or Lester Maddox, the former governor of Georgia. We're in some sick other sides stuff that's really disturbing. So listen, I can only hope. I've given this book to young people. For some people, they say it's too graphic, but like my mother said, if you can watch people getting hurt on social media, you can read this. So historical fiction motivated me, but there is a political infrastructure. That's why politics are local. That's why I say, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. So we got to be as engaged as possible. But right here in this moment, it really inspires me.
Wow.
Well, he wants to really, can he get in one more? Hey, really quick. He's an elected official. Go ahead.
Education.
Yes, yeah.
The role, the character Solomon.
Oh, my man, Solomon.
Yeah. Give me some thought about Solomon, because I'm trying to think, did he get proper advice, or are we to think that he didn't give proper
Okay, I don't want to give too much away, but Solomon's cool. Solomon, I don't know. Solomon is named after one of my ancestors. He's a really important character in the book. He did not give. I mean, the journey of running away, it's so there's no path, right? Right. So it wasn't that. But he's a really powerful character. He's the ultimate thread in the book, but he's not based on a real person, so I didn't have a chapter named after him. He has these gray eyes, which is really powerful. And yeah, I love that character, but it wasn't that. I think some folks may have interpreted it that way, but I wanted to show that even when there is a blueprint that I might be giving too much away, it changes.
Yeah.
It's not, these things aren't etched in stone. But what's the line that Solomon says? Maybe one day you'll come back for me.
Yes.
So it's in some parts of the book, I am trying to push the reader to, I wanted to make it really accessible. I didn't want to have it too over the top. There were some parts where I was like, okay, like, well, you're getting too poetic here, like calm yourself down. So I pulled back a little bit. I wanted to be really accessible. But there is some parts where I'm encouraging the reader to just read with your third eye. Mm-hmm. There's some layers and stacking. I didn't want to lay everything out so explicit. Like I was going to have a scene where Solomon says, I'm sorry, or did you follow my? I didn't want to be that explicit.
Right.
Let it just marinate. That just know that burning something down can be complicated, and you don't win the first time around. But if they would have gotten away, then something wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Junior would have still been Junior. So they needed to come back. Junior learned. Listen, I want to thank y'all.
Thank you
for coming here on this day. I haven't spent a lot of time in Connecticut, so it's really great to be here. I kind of right, a little too cold. I saw the images of Harriet. I was like, Harriet looked a little bit cold to me. Harriet looked really cold. Rest in power, Miss Harriet. When is your birthday? When is Miss Harriet? June. Oh, she's Gemini.
Yeah.
So I want to thank y'all for being here. I got to tell you, next week this book will have been out for a month. This has been a wild ride. The publishing industry is wild, and to have a book like this come out during this time means a lot. And I really appreciate the love and the support and the kindness and spreading the word. I'm so thankful and grateful. Thank you for doing this. It means so much to me. Thank you all for the invite of having me be here on this day. It was going to be the 28th or 27th. Okay. Yeah. So the 20th, this day where Douglas became an ancestor in 1895, it all just kind of makes sense. Thank you to everybody on the live stream. It's really important to be out here in community. Right? It's important to be out here. I've been in Houston, New York, DC, Atlanta, Dallas, now up here. It's really important to be here. So I thank all y'all. It really means a lot to me. And you know the deal, y'all.